Leader Fan Radio Network.
What do you mean?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 45 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to the, it's a Talker Tuesday edition of the afternoon Aardvark on a pretty steamy, although not quite as steamy as yesterday, weekday afternoon here in Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. New home to LeBron. For some reason, I think LeBron James would be an East Sider. I don't know why. I think a lot of
St.
people
Paul sensibility.
assume Minneapolis, bright lights, etc. For some reason, I don't know if I'd say he's got a blue-collar sensibility, but I think he might be a St. Paul guy.
You think the kid from Akron
might relate.
Fit a little bit more with the St. Paul sensibilities.
Akron is to Cleveland what St. Paul is to Minneapolis.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll go with that.
So I'm just saying, I don't think you can rule it out.
I'd love to see it.
Plus, you can get some really good deals. I mean, LeBron could buy an entire building in St. Paul for like $8 and turn it into his own, obviously his home base is always going to be Los Angeles.
Right.
But have a satellite home. The size of an entire building, basically, couldn't he?
Then you could just hop on the light rail and get to work. You wouldn't even have to drive. Just live downtown St. Paul right off the light rail.
And rumor has it, he attended more L.A. Kings games than you think. He might be a sneaky professional hockey fan.
There's a lot of those.
There's no question about it. Some of them don't even want to admit it.
I know. Why are there so many closeted hockey fans?
Johnny Athletic's one of them.
I think he
pretends to hate the game.
I think he does.
And I think deep down, everybody knows he's got a little bit of hockey sensibility there. He's a grinder. Wouldn't Johnny would take the description of being a grinder as a compliment, wouldn't he?
I don't know. He's kind of Hollywood
blamed
now. I know. Well, he was.
Oh, you think he has left that behind?
I think he likes to think. I think he wants to project. He's kind of like Kessler. He wants to project like he's this gritty, bootstraps kind of guy. But if you describe him that way, I think he would like to describe himself that way. But if you describe him that way, like if we say Johnny's like a good fourth line grinder for a hockey team, like dependable, reliable, I think he would take that as a slight. Yeah. I think he thinks he's more Quinnesota than whoever the fourth liner is.
Well, do you have to be a fourth liner to be a grinder?
Kind of.
Oh.
I think. Maybe people can correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I think you can be a talented grinder.
Yeah, I'd like to think that too.
You know what I'm saying?
I'd like to think a lot of us here are talented grinders.
Well, exactly. There you go. I mean, I think it's a possibility. Guardsy produces the show. My name is Dan Barreiro. For those not familiar with the program, I before E, except in Barreiro. Am I right? Dew point, I'm going to guess today. I mangled the dew point yesterday. I'm going to say the dew point is down into the 60s today.
It is. 68.
So better. Yesterday didn't you tell me it was like 74?
77.
77.
Yeah.
So that is better.
It was Tibbs weather yesterday.
It was.
It was oppressive.
It was extremely oppressive. And yet, we didn't really get any boom bust here, right? There was a few passing clouds, and it looked like it would start threatening, and then the clouds would break up. And I don't really think we got
not much.
We didn't get hammered with any storm, did we?
I don't think so. Didn't Ian Leonard tell us yesterday that a lot of them were up north and they just kind of died out over Lake Superior?
That's correct.
So up there, there were tornado warnings up there and all of that. Yeah, they had some serious
stuff there, yeah. Here, not so much.
Down here, not as much.
Not as much. We'll be with you until 6:30 this evening. It's a Talker Tuesday on a Tuesday in this case. Luigi coming into studio again, which is great. 5:02. Interestingly, that's about I think 5 Central is when NBA free agency officially begins.
Is that right?
6 Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, 5 o'clock tonight. NBA free agency. Not that I expect we're going to have any blockbuster. I mean, and what everybody's going to be paying attention to early is how quickly LeBron signed.
That's true. Right? That's true.
And you've already seen the alleged clue that he's given out, right? A video via, was it Insta? I don't know what he's on. Maybe it was on TikTok.
He's on all of it.
He's on all of it?
Yep.
And he was driving, and it appeared, the detectives put it together that he was in Ohio driving. So they have assumed on that basis that he's going to go back to the Cavaliers for a third time.
That would be pretty funny.
I think if I were him, I'd go to Golden State.
Yeah.
or I'd come here.
I agree.
Now, he isn't going to come here as much as I think the fit would actually be tremendous.
That's what everybody says.
What are we lacking right now? Now, he's not, in the classic sense, a long-standing power forward.
Right.
But guess what? As he gets older, he, I think, doesn't want to move around quite as much and likes the idea, perhaps, of playing inside a little bit more. Not all the time, because I don't think he wants to get hit.
Does he shoot well enough for the power forward that we need?
Yes.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. God, yes.
Okay.
But he'd have to come here for what's the max we could pay him? Would it be, what do they pay you? Because we need, who's the swing man that we acquired along with LaMelo? His name escapes me.
Yeah, my son just told me he has one of his cards today.
Really?
And I can't even remember his name.
We need his money.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know how we get, are we still in line for a mid-level exception? I'm not sure. But let me know via the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line where LeBron James would live in the Twin Cities.
Josh Green is who you're thinking
Josh
about.
Green, thank you. East Sider, West Sider.
This is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to go with this. Unfortunately, it's all, I guess you could say, a dream. But maybe we'll find out. Maybe there'll be a big announcement right off the top. I'm not sure. The timing is interesting because his agent made it official earlier today. He's out. We ain't going back to the Lakers.
All the graphics have been made.
Correct.
The thank yous.
Correct.
Luka's done the goodbye.
So now it's interesting that announcement comes on the day when free agency officially begins. Tampering has already begun. We know that. But you know what I was reminded of today? It's fascinating. Now, again, you could argue the punishment isn't that great, but I would suggest that the punishment indicates that as someone who was against tampering back in the Joe Smith days because of what it cost this team, I might be pro-tampering now. Because once upon a time, the New York Knickerbockers were penalized. They lost a second-round draft choice after being convicted of tampering on Jalen Brunson before he left the Dallas Mavericks.
That's right.
You think the Knicks feel okay about giving up second-round pick for that as the punishment today?
Wow, I forgot about that.
So I don't know if it was like minor tampering or we're more permissive in these days.
It's
with
Adam Silver's
after
NBA.
David Stern. Yeah, like everything else.
Yep.
I don't know, but I found that pretty interesting.
I forgot about
Second
that.
round. I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think in New York, I think they'd say, we'll take that trade-off.
Seriously. And ours was for Joe Smith. Again, that's what you say all the time. We always get caught.
Yeah.
We always get hammered more than anybody else does.
In every sport, and college and pro.
Yes, and it's never for the ultimate payoff or even a payoff that's worth it, a player that's worth it.
That was the thing that always drove me insane.
Yes, I understand.
The Joe Smith obsession. Joe Smith. I know. I chided Sam Mitchell about this because he used to call him the Beast. And I said, Sam, that makes him sound much better than he was. The Beast. Because you think the Beast, you're like Moses Malone.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal.
The guy who gets, might get on a given night 22 rebounds, kill 2 opponents, 7 block shots, that kind of thing. Isn't that a beast when you think of the term beast?
That's a beast. Joe Smith was a beast in college at times.
He was.
For Maryland. That's why he was the number 1 pick.
Number 1 overall pick, yeah.
He was.
Although I don't even know, looking back on, he certainly wasn't the best player of that draft. I don't remember who else was in that draft. But he was the number 1 pick. You're right, because he was a very, very good college.
I'm pretty sure that was KG's draft.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the KG draft. So by definition, no.
612 guy writes, Erickson Eck is a grinder and a bona fide top 6 player. So there, Guardsy. You can be both.
Is Ecky a grinder?
He's got some, I think you can have some grind to you, even if you have some skill. I don't think, a pure grinder obviously is going to be a 4th liner.
Right.
Or a guy who maybe plays, 12 minutes off the bench and just gives you, I think of, who was the, Slow-Mo. I think of Slow-Mo as a grinder. And by the way, I love him. I love Slow-Mo. I do. But I've heard or read the suggestion that he's among the guys that the Wolves ought to consider.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Please.
Let's not be.
It was
especially if we're going to play fast now.
Yeah. There's no. If let's put it this way. If Slow-Mo ends up being the closest we can get to a serviceable front court player, it is going to be a gap year. Right? And it might be anyway, by the way. That's something you and I need to discuss. We'll get into that a little bit later. But a lot of good ideas coming in on where LeBron might want to live. I mentioned Louis coming in. We've got done as today. We have two highly significant and controversial Supreme Court rulings in which I think there's a pretty good chance that I will annoy, in one case, the Sharks and enrage the Jets in the other. But we will get to those without necessarily legal expertise today. We're going to try to talk about those things without necessarily a Ron Rosenbaum kind of approach. But we'll see how it goes. Alan and Afton, LeBron James does not strike me as a bathhouse type guy, so Minneapolis is definitely out. He's thinking more St. Paul. Let me see. Let me scroll down here. They're coming in, again, fast and furious.
I believe it.
Very, very fast and furious. Somebody else is saying LeBron is North Oaks.
Yeah. I can
you
see that. Absolutely. Next door to Charlie Swanson.
How about this? This is, again, Alan. I finally got to scroll down and read the rest of his text. Minneapolis is out. I see him finding a palatial estate in Sunfish Lake.
Yep.
Near the Vikings compound.
That's kind of where I was thinking, too. That's the other.
That's not bad.
That's the sneaky.
And then what you do is, obviously, then you rent a penthouse condo downtown Minneapolis.
You could.
Right?
Yeah.
You're LeBron James. You can do both pretty easily, couldn't you?
You definitely can.
That's not going to be a problem, I don't think.
It should not be.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
He might just live at the Four Seasons where they typically stay, the NBA teams now.
Yeah.
They used to stay across, it was a Hilton for a while.
Right. What is it now?
La Meridian. Now is it the Lofton still, or did that change?
No, I think it's the Lofton. I think you're right.
But now, since we got the Four Seasons, that's where all the teams stay now. So, but they have condos there, so LeBron could get one there.
Do they have enough? What was it that Day was complaining about? They don't have in Memphis hotels. Do they have enough? What was he was upset about?
Yeah,
it was not just the hotel. It was whirlpools. Was it?
Yeah, probably.
Was it steam rooms?
Yeah,
maybe it was a bathhouse. I don't know.
The amenities.
Maybe that's one of the amenities. I'm not exactly sure. What is the latest Redfin or Zillow report of Summit Avenue? LeBron could throw a hell of a garage sale. Howl. That's John. LeBron would live in a double wide on 4 acres in Pine City.
Wow.
Well, you know Pine City better
Pine
than
City
most.
well. Yeah, what's that about?
I don't know what
Why does Pine City catch
maybe that's
strays?
for you. I don't know.
He'd love the pizza pub.
Yeah.
The guy in A&W?
Probably would. That's true. I asked this question the other day. Did anybody ever buy Cat's estate on was it in Orono? It was on the lake, but I can't remember where it was exactly.
I feel like it was more Wayzata.
Was it Wayzata?
I thought so, but I don't know.
Did anybody buy it?
I'm not sure.
I mean, that'd be a starter home for LeBron, but nevertheless, it's not his permanent place. I mean, he's going to be in L.A. What else did I have on the menu that I wanted? Oh, I'm going to start instituting a little more of Dan Wanasota's On This Day, not so much necessarily Calendar of Calamity.
I like it.
So I'm going to get to a couple of those. We have a way too long ago belated, not done as, we do have a done as, Ode to a Dead Guy that I've been meaning to include into the conversation. And some World Cup. There's always more World Cup on the Bumper to Bumper program. That continues to be our pledge. And you can check this during the break, because this occurred to me as I was preparing for the program. Has Olivia Miles thanked Caitlin Clark yet?
Good one.
Has she?
I don't know if she has.
Played before. Helped build it up, didn't she? Build it to a place where Olivia Miles gets to fly what? Charter.
You're right.
Has she thanked Caitlin Clark yet?
I'm going to have to look for it, but as I think I mentioned to you before, today is my Brett Blakemore day, because Serena's going 3. Serena just split sets, battled back, she, on the ropes, had a match point down.
Is she playing anybody any good?
No, the person she's playing has lost 11 straight tour-level matches. Was in the top 30 a year ago, but is completely cratered. So I'm like Brett Blakemore on a Sunday morning right now, with one eye up and one eye on you. But I'll do my best.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by the news.
match that I watched last night, World Cup, was at Germany. When was Germany's loss? That was last night, wasn't it? Isn't that
Germany was during our show.
Oh, that was during our show.
The shootout. Yeah,
that's right.
Shootout was during our show.
Where it looked like late in the shootout, they got saved. They looked dead in the water, but they survived, and then to go to the sudden death shootout, correct?
Yeah, they were down.
They were down, I
guess, 3-2 with two shots left.
Exactly.
And Paraguay missed both. And then they end up going into the
obviously
extra.
Germany, they are like, okay, this is ours.
Right.
We got to win this
Destiny.
thing now. And they didn't.
They did not,
as I recall it.
Were you watching Morocco and the Netherlands?
That's what I was watching last night. That was it. Morocco versus the Netherlands, which was also ended up being
went to penalties.
Went to penalties too. I will say this because I mean, you'd think like with hockey, the idea of penalty shots, penalty kicks. Come on, man, especially when you're on the grandest stage. But I don't know. I found myself enjoying the drama yesterday during the day and then at night too more than I thought I would, in part because I assumed that nobody ever missed on soccer penalty kicks. And that's not true.
Right.
So that on the front end, I'm like, well, it's kind of a farce. What's the point? I mean, there's going to be one miss and that's... But it's actually, at least so far, in the two matches yesterday in which penalty kicks were used, I thought there was more than that. There was more drama to it than I had expected.
And players not only miss, some of them miss.
Yeah, they miss badly,
terribly.
Yeah, that's
which shows you, I think, the pressure that we can't even fathom to have to be standing over that ball, trying to figure out where the goalie's going. You know what he knows, and you know where you want to go to try to do all of that in 4 steps. It's pretty remarkable.
Holland scores late, so Norway does knock off Ivory Coast, correct? In the 86th minute. That was in Dallas. That was earlier today, correct?
Yes, 2-1.
2-1. Is there a game going on? Is there a match going on now?
About to start in about a half an hour, Sweden and France.
Oh.
Nice little matchup on Fox.
We'll get to an interesting wrinkle regarding many people feel like the big favorite, France, to win it a little bit later in the broadcast. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. I mentioned two. I bet you I should actually first get to some breaking news because I mentioned technically. Well, this isn't a free agent move, but this is a trade.
Yeah, pretty big one.
But a pretty big one. Free agency apparently is official or can start post-tampering at 5 p.m. Central Time. But I don't know that I saw... I mean, there were rumors about this, but I was skeptical. But indeed, the L.A. Clippers are trading Tree Guy. Or they are, according to Shams, nearing a deal to send Kawhi Leonard back to the Toronto Raptors for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and 2 second-rounders. Sources tell ESPN. Recall, with Kawhi, the Raptors won their only title, right?
2019.
He is also a 2-time NBA Finals MVP. I think this is close to a no-brainer if you're the Clippers because, again, Kawhi played really well last year and stayed healthier, but it's the old deal of how much treads on the tire. What's the I mean, we all are assuming the punishment is going to come down on the Clippers more than it's going to come down on the player. I think we can presume that given the Raptors are making this deal.
Right. For the salary cap circumvention secret deal with Aspire.
And by the way, that report still isn't out, much to the frustration of the current commissioner.
I would imagine.
Of the NBA, who made that point the other day. We got to get this thing done. And is it possible we're just going to void the Kawhi contract? Chances are, I'm not even sure the league was going to give the Clippers an opportunity to extend him. Right? I mean, who knows what the punishment's going to be? So I think from a Clippers standpoint, it's a good move. Even if, you're not getting greatness back, you're getting some interesting pieces, you're getting a bunch of draft picks back. But that is a very large deal. And does it change the landscape in the Eastern Conference a little bit? Maybe. That's Sam Mitchell territory, by the way. He still does a lot of Raptors work. I should text him to see what he thinks of that move.
He was the coach of the year when he was at Toronto.
That's right. That's exactly it. So more on that a little bit later. And if we get any LeBron being spotted on the Stone Arch in downtown St. Paul, we'll let you know that as well.
Now, the other thing I got going is our guy, Josh Brodden. All he's doing now is just sending me Lake Minnetonka listings that he thinks LeBron might like. And, it's kind of our neighborhood. People always ask me, oh, you live by the lake? I go, no. I live 2 miles and 2 million at least away from the lake. But I'm familiar with the area.
Yeah.
And so there's some nice properties out that way.
You can do well.
Yeah.
There's usually a few that you're not going to go, I'm not sure if that's big enough.
Yeah.
If you got that kind of dough.
LeBron would do fine.
I think he would be fine. I don't know. Is he a water guy? I don't know.
I think he is, because someone tweeted out a picture of him on a boat somewhere today. Not from today, but I think he would be a good, and he likes to golf.
Yeah.
A lot of good golf courses out west, but there's a lot of good golf. See, I'm thinking like Stillwater would be a good sneaky spot for him. A little quieter.
That is sneaky.
Like North Oaks, obviously
and
that area.
And east side, that is sneaky good. Yeah.
You hit the St. Croix rather than a lake. I feel like that would be a good spot for Bron.
LeBron to Cleveland, World Cup bland, LaMelo trade grand, Wolves in 5. So that he rhymed.
You got to say Cleveland different.
Yeah. Cleveland?
Yeah, LeBron to Cleveland. World Cup bland.
There you go. Cleveland. Yeah, I needed him to emphasize the second syllable for me, but you're exactly right. My bad. I apologize to 218. Is that 218 guy? Yeah, 218 guy. Okay, Supreme Court, massive decision involving the president's attempt to curtail birthright citizenship. I'll read from the Wall Street Journal update. The Supreme Court today struck down the president's attempt to, well, I just said it, curtail birthright citizenship, a rejection of his most aggressive crackdown on illegal immigration. Decision rebuffs Trump's bid to upend the deep-rooted understanding that virtually everyone born on American soil is automatically a U.S. citizen. That understanding, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote, was enshrined in the Constitution in 1868. Citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today. 6 justices, 3 conservatives and 3 libs, ruled against Trump, though only 5 did so on constitutional grounds. The court's 3 most conservative judges did indeed dissent. The case challenged, if you recall, an executive order that Trump issued on the first day of his second term, which he had declared that future children born in the U.S. would not be considered citizens if their parents were living in the country illegally or visiting the country on a temporary basis. The executive order never indeed took effect. The timing of this is interesting to me. And one of the things that Chief Justice Roberts notes in his opinion is how the immigration debate hasn't really changed all that. We think it's new, but it's not really all that new. The argument that, quote, these people are too different to join us, end quote, has failed socially, culturally, economically, and morally time and time again. Unfortunately, that's a lesson that your guy, Tom Emmer, doesn't get or doesn't want to get any longer or doesn't care. He thinks that he's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore. Some childish comments, offensive for me, comments that he made, I think it was last week, regarding the Somali community, and that's always the basis of it. You don't want to fit in. We're a melting pot. And the truth of the matter is there is no law that says you have to assimilate in a certain amount of time or how far you have to assimilate, whatever the case may be. And I can tell you, it comes often, but it takes time. I can talk about it in my own family. If my dad coming over from Spain, both grandfathers, one from Argentina, one from Spain, for a long time, they held on, even when they came here, appreciating the opportunity, they held on to their culture. I grew up in a place called the Spanish Society. The Spanish Castle is what we called it. That was the nickname. All kinds of social events. And there wasn't a lot of mingling going on, quite frankly, with anybody outside the Spaniards. Eventually, it got there. A very welcome ruling. I would put this under the classification of, through the tumultuous times in which we live, I mentioned, Andy Luger and I talked about this last time he was in, and I asked him that, is that in the end here, to hold on to at least some of our norms, who have we counted on? It's been the courts at varying levels. Now, you can argue we need more of it. You can argue there hasn't been enough of it, but there has been a lot of stuff that this president has attempted to do that has been reversed. And he's not the only president that has had stuff reversed when the executive, one could argue on the basis of our separation of powers, attempts to test those limits. So I find this an outstanding outcome. I'm not going to pretend to analyze the legality, how well reasoned it is legally speaking. I will leave that to others, perhaps on another day with greater legal expertise. But I find it heartening. I find it a fairly large move. Has the president responded yet?
Is this from today? Yes, this decision was, quote, too bad for our country.
Right.
And wrong, and this is from the story, and wrongly suggested that Congress could easily address it with legislation. This is from Associated Press story.
That's light. My guess is the real fury will show up about 2 a.m. A
little later
Don't
tonight.
You think?
Yeah.
When he gets the bile really worked up.
The Truth Social post.
Don't you think that'd be the time?
Usually is. We get a lot of midnight runs or early morning.
Yeah, interesting. Well, in any case, that's one. There actually were several. That's one of the ones I wanted to mention early. And as expected, a number of the sharks are not pleased with my conclusion and my belief that this was an important ruling, reconfirming a basic, I think, tenet of the way we have sort of grown up as a nation. And that if that had been successfully torn away by this president, I think it would have been very damaging and very destructive. And the fact is, again, in this case, there were some, you want to call them righty judges, who are involved in for various reasons in coming to this very conclusion. Now, again, we get into the game of at the purest level, it should be about whether the law is being interpreted correctly. We've learned over the many decades that even that can be more subjective than folks in the legal profession want to think. We used to talk about that from time to time with Ron Rosenbaum. In any case, I thought that was well played and encouraging. I think the danger with an administration that is run the way the president runs it is he does want to be the king. And he's going to continue to test his limits in a way that not all that many have before. And part of the reason is because he's been able to get away with as much as he has. He's going, well, what do I have to lose at this point? So I would say this is the perfect example of why we have the separation that we do. And then in this case, it has worked as a very effective check and balance. We could probably go to 42, right?
Yes, we could.
We're wide open. It is a Talker Tuesday on a Tuesday. So again, as I mentioned, the Sharks not very pleased with me. Now here's where it gets interesting on another ruling, where, and this is, we've talked about this before, but among the lefties, among the Jets out there, I guess you could say, there has been, I should say, disagreement on this issue. And that's always my comeback to the hardcore progressives on this issue. The assumption that if you're not on their side regarding this story we're about to get to and this ruling, then you're afraid of the whole transgender concept. You have a fear of it. There can be no other explanation. You don't care about those who are in that classification or have put themselves in that classification. You're cruel. You're heartless. And you don't even realize the damage you're doing. But the fact of the matter is, and this shouldn't be the only litmus test, there are a number of confirmed lefties in the sports world, most notably would be Martina Navratilova. But there are certainly others who said, no. On this issue, I believe I am protecting a group of people in this country, biological women. And that's been, from the start, my annoyance about any of the conversations we've had. Other people think they have a right to decide what your motivation is and what you may be thinking on a given issue. And we're talking about Supreme Court upholding state restrictions on transgender athletics. This decision, the athletes, I should say, this decision will let 27 states keep bans on transgender women and girls playing for female sports teams. This also, I think, this is not such a broad ruling that it in any way makes illegal transgender athletes playing in those sports in states in which those are the rules, like Minnesota, for example.
Right.
This is not a ruling that I think, now there are people clamoring for, we need a ruling that we need a national standard. But in this case, I think what it basically says is if you're one of the 27 states that has these bans in place, you can keep them in place. I don't think it forces other states that don't have these bans in place to then put them in place. And I'll give a couple more details on it. This is basically banning transgender women and girls from playing on female sports teams, as the Wall Street Journal notes, a bitterly fought issue that has become a political and cultural flashpoint. The court ruled against two young athletes, one now in high school, the other finishing college, whose sex was recorded as male at birth, but who identify as female. Brett Kavanaugh, writing for the court, Constitution does not require the schools determine eligibility for women's and girls' sports based on gender identity rather than biological sex. And as I mentioned, 27 states limit school sports for women and girls to athletes whose biological sex is female. And by the way, for the record, it's basically, that is now the policy moving forward, the Olympic policy moving forward. We talked about that, I think, when it was confirmed or maybe clarified a little bit. I think there's a test involved now, literally one test that must be taken, I think, once in your life to sort of distinguish, shall we say. And now you could argue, well, at the Olympic level is different because that's presumably athletic competition in those various sports at the highest level.
NCAA has done the same thing.
NCAA now?
Yeah, okay. They along with the Olympics.
It's frankly if it matters to you, it's the majority position in pretty much every poll of most Americans. But it's become the classic flashpoint in that there are some, I guess I'd say some lefties, some Jets who, under the classification of I can't give sustenance to the enemy, are doubling and tripling down on the notion that you are hurting people, you are putting individuals, transgenders, in danger in some cases. And it's, to me, where the argument, the discussion goes off the rail, because you start using that language, it basically precludes you coming to any other conclusion than the one that they prefer. The governor of the state of Minnesota today, creating, as far as I'm concerned, a straw man argument. The quote, I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I heard it on audio today basically saying that this ruling allows some states to be crueler and crueler to transgender individuals, while it allows us to continue to be more and more compassionate with them. And then there was also a throwaway line about how, it's ridiculous that this would become so important to people that you would prevent them from participating on the bowling team, for example. For me, it's a disingenuous argument because it makes it easier to dismiss the argument. Oh, yeah, some recreational bowling what are we protecting there? Well, he knows, I think, probably doesn't care because, again, it's become a political flashpoint, so he can't give on the issue. He can't give on the issue. That for some, even though the numbers are very low at this point, it's about fairness and competition. And that's where I think you can be someone who isn't transphobic, want to do everything you can to let people be who they want to be, and say, what about the possibility that you're being cruel to individual participants, female participants in this case, in a sport in which they are keeping score? They are. We could say, well, if you're talking about high school or you're talking about, what's really come on, what's really at stake? Well, we have competition that if we keep score, it matters to people. And this is how preposterous it's gotten. We have some individuals who actually with a straight face try to say there is no meaningful distinction in performance between men and women. At which point I know you don't want to be taken seriously on the subject. Or you've decided that you can't allow that argument because you know you may lose the argument on that basis, so you will pretend that there's no meaningful distinction there. I've said this a few months ago when we talked about it. If one competition, in one sport, one time is affected by this rule, I think there is a fairness issue for biological girls or women involved. Sorry. I do. And don't the rules, this is where there's this disconnect. Don't the rules have been implemented at various levels? Do these same individuals think the people who run the Olympics are transphobic? Or do you think it's possible they're just more worried about the competition and the fact that there are some distinctions there? I'm a little behind on a break. We'll take it. And then I'll get to some texts on this ruling as well. There were several others, but these are the two big ones that are getting a lot of attention today. It's a Talker Tuesday on a Tuesday. Lou Nanny in studio just past 5.
You're listening to Barreiro.
I'm having difficulty finding the StarTribune.com story I'm looking for, but I will find it eventually on what I, like I said, object to the most regarding both these stories, but rulings, but especially the second one is the language that is used that I think is very deliberate and strategic that almost prevents a reasoned debate and discussion on the story relating to fairness in competition. And I'll find an example in a minute of what I'm talking about. This is from Bob. As a lefty, I'm grateful for your well-reasoned argument for transgenders in sports. To me, it should not be a left-right issue. Chris writes, to me, there should be no federal, state, or local laws banning or allowing transgender sports participation. Each sports association and governing body should be able to determine who is eligible and who isn't. Well, the problem with that is the obvious, I think, in terms of competitions that bleed over from one place, one state to another. As it stands, this court ruling in terms of what each state does is each state is still on its own. You could make the theoretical argument that having different rules on something like this creates an element of confusion at the very least, and perhaps unfairness, whatever side of the issue that you might be on. Now, there may be a case coming in which it might be more global. I don't know. Let's see here. Dan, I don't normally agree with you in your political views, but I really appreciate your stance on trans athletes. That should be separated, and that they should be separated. Having a daughter who plays competitive high school sports, I think it's unfair if she has to go up against a biological male or gets injured because a biological male, who for intensive purposes is going to be stronger, injured my daughter. Now, do we have as many examples as some, yes, transphobic individuals who inject themselves in this debate believe about injury? Probably not, because I think that argument runs the risk of being oversold. However, I don't think it should be out of bounds completely. I don't know what I'm hesitating because I think that we're so far on this story down the road that I'm not sure there's ever going to come a unifying moment on it. Now, what I will say, and you and I have talked about this too, there was a time, and we'd have to do some research on when this period was, where any discussion indicating a fairness part of the equation was hardly ever said out loud under the fear of, you're done. It's over for you. What do you have? Why do you care? Why are you threatened by individuals who want to make these decisions or go these routes? And then what happened is a couple of quote unquote left of center publications, The Atlantic was one of them, started pushing back a little bit and asking questions on these sorts of things. And I think it had made it a little easier for the public, which had sort of ducked and hid a lot of the time on this subject out of fear for, like I said, being, if not canceled, called out to a place where you're left feeling like you're on an island of your own. But I don't know if I don't even know if it ever gets to a better place because, and you can speak to this part of it too, I guess, when we have, in the name of, I think, protecting the position, you have people testifying with a straight face saying, we don't really know how much advantage males have in competition. Then for those individuals in that camp, to me, they're striking they're a pose and a strategy that makes it hard to take the position seriously. Does that make any sense?
No, it does. It does. Well, I think the other thing that changed is there were more instances.
Yes, it's cropping up a little more often. Yeah. We had it in softball this last summer.
We had it locally.
Yeah.
There was obviously the one in the Olympics a few years ago. And it just got harder and harder to just say, because there was also that we're not talking about that many people, and we're still not, by the way. We're still talking about a very small percentage.
Absolutely true.
And I think that's part of the issue, too, is because there's not an easy answer into what's
the compromise?
Well, yeah, exactly. What's the compromise? Because early on it was, what if they did what if there's a separate division or this and that?
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily practical because, again, we're talking about a very small amount of people. So I think part of the reason why people get tent-poled to their spots so much because there hasn't been an easy middle ground on, well, where can they play? And maybe they can't. I don't know that, but I think that's part of the discussion. Maybe there isn't a place. Maybe there isn't right now. Maybe there will be soon.
And that's where this is uncomfortable because as somebody who you coached kids before, and I've got one, and anybody who does, you want to encourage participation, especially at the younger ages, as much as possible, right? I mean that's just a given. So it's not. If you favor the position I'm favoring, I don't think you're reveling in it because you understand it does have ramifications. But that's the irony here. Like I said, Martina Navratilova will tell you, I am a card-carrying lefty women's libber. Full stop, man, in her case, right? That's it.
Big time.
And she's saying, I am this is a Title IX issue for me. And I don't understand how now Title IX is being used as that's why Title IX is why you can't prevent individuals, transgender, who were born male, who want to participate in female sports. And she's saying, yeah, this is rough, but that you are denying a fairness right. The whole point of Title IX was opportunity for everybody, but at that point it was biological girls, biological boys. That's basically what this ruling has taken place, or what is said in effect, and that's the irony of it. She's not exactly a hardcore righty in this case, and she sure as hell is not saying that she thinks these individuals, that means they should be mocked and ridiculed. But for her, it's I am protecting girls and women to give them the best opportunity to compete against other biological girls and women. I don't know if she's weighed in today on this subject, but I know that she's done that before. I think technically, by the way, what the Olympic charter now, well, not charter, but the Olympic rules now say is if you are born male and you identify as a woman, you cannot participate in women's sports in the Olympics. However, you can participate in men's sports. Sure. Now, a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and say, well, how's that going to work? And how's that? I mean, that's putting that person in a position where he or she, depending on how you want to look at it, is going to stand out, right? Too much. But I believe when I read earlier today, I kind of went through some of the Olympic stuff. I think technically that's what they say. They say, no, we're not stopping you from participating. Right. That would make sense. Which would make some sense. And I guess there are high school associations, if they wanted to, could make the same argument. Now, that's going to be uncomfortable for all the obvious reasons. So I don't know. And that's where the answer isn't easy, because when you're talking about, grade school, or you're talking about junior high school, you're talking about adolescence, you want to encourage participation. It's not like winning championships is everything, but it matters. It's disingenuous to pretend the way the governor did that, you're going to stop somebody from participating with the bowling team? Come on, Governor. You're not to be taken seriously on this issue, because you're changing the argument. You are creating a straw man argument. At least have the ability to argue where it counts regarding competition. And he may have an answer. He may say, I'm willing to give that up, whatever the case. But at least don't just address it. Don't pretend that people are talking about, well, they got this bowling team, this bowling club team, and they're not letting a biological girl who now identifies as a guy. Come on. Let's at least have a serious discussion about what the debate really should be about. And again, are there people in the country still afraid of the whole identity issue? Yes. Is that sad? 100%. But the idea that those individuals exist doesn't mean I have to cede what I think is fairness. They may like it, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for the participants, or what I think might indeed be fair. And as, again, in most polls, I think Americans have said literally by minimum 6 of 10. Some polls, it's been 8 out of 10. It feels like for many that's the logical position. Hour number 2 of Talker Tuesday. I do have a done as to get to that. I don't know how I missed it. It's another sad story, but not a particularly surprising story related to this administration. And we'll get to some other stuff as well. Louis in studio beginning about an hour from now.